Hello and welcome back to our limited set review of Dominaria United. We've gone over all the different cards and the grades of those cards, but in this episode I want to go over the different archetypes that there are and kind of give a little bit more of the big picture strategy of the set rather than each individual card. So up first, I want to go over how I envision the archetypes. I actually really envision the archetypes as 5 major ones that are just representative of the colors, and then those archetypes interact with each other. I'll get a little more into that, but basically I see white as a bunch of small token creatures, blue as instants and sorceries, black as death matters, red as aggro and burn, and green as domain. Now, that's nothing surprising. Each one of these colors, that's typically kind of their wheelhouse they stick to. But how I think this set will play out is it's not so much a column A, column B type set. When I say that, I mean it's not about getting the payoffs and the enablers for those payoffs. A set like Ikoria would be that, for instance, right? It had 3 major archetypes. There was a cycling theme, there was a mutate theme, and then there was a black, white, red aristocrats sack theme. And you basically, no matter what colors you picked, you fell into one of those 3 deck themes, and those were the archetypes. This set I do not see like that. I see this as taking the different color strengths and unifying them together to help each other. Thus, I guess it's kind of appropriate with Dominaria United. But let's kind of go into that. I see mostly that you'll be picking your win condition off of white, red, and green. So it's kind of like white is a go wide approach, red is just an aggro approach, and green is get a big creatures or set of big creatures on the battlefield. And then I see blue and black more as resource management. How do you want to manage that approach? And so blue is kind of get more, right? Get more cards. And black is more disrupt your opponent. When you put them all together, you do get 10 archetypes, all right? But I just wanted you to envision it as those 5. So we'll start with white-blue. That is instants and sorceries make tokens to go wide. White-black is make tokens and sacrifice them. White-red is clear the way for your tokens to get through with burn. And white-green is make tokens and pump them. So as you'll see, the white is getting your tokens. It's just what do you want to do with them is what your secondary color is. For blue, we have blue-black. This one's kind of the exception. I don't think they found a great archetype for this one. So they put it in as kind of defender theme. This defender's interesting. In my set review, I gave all the defenders low grades, and I'm holding to that. I do not like the defender theme. But I do think it will come up. It is a theme. You will lose to it sometimes. And it might be a fun one to make happen. But I don't think it's going to be on the competitive end. At least all the individual cards don't, usually themes are both more than the sum of their parts, but their parts have to be pretty good. And blue-black, they have some individual cards that are decent, but not that focus around the defender theme. I don't think it's going to be that strong. But it is the defender approach for blue-black. Blue-red, you have instants and sorceries pump your aggro. So on the counter side of saying blue-black was bad, I think blue-red might be one of the best colors. But yeah, instants and sorceries will pump your aggro and go through. Then you have blue-green domain. This is kind of mostly the setup for domain and having some big beefy creatures that will benefit from that domain effect. Black-red is aggressively trade with your opponent and draw into more aggression, so you should be ready to trade off with them, and that will, as you do so, you should get some benefits to help draw more cards, as we saw in some of those cards, or gain a benefit of some sort. Black-green is graveyard recursion. Pretty straightforward there. And then red-green is aggressive big creatures. So things like Enlist and Enlist with Trample, like we kind of talked about before. So bigger creatures that'll hopefully run over the 1/1s that you might be facing in white. So those are the 10 archetypes. But what I think makes this set particularly interesting, those colors and themes are not that far off of what we've seen in most other sets, right? What I think is interesting here is the kicker ability. Kicker will really shape the format of this set. Especially it makes resource management huge. Basically, I think this set will revolve around the kicker and ensuring that you have the cards that will give you the flexibility to get an early board presence, but also ramp up to be a sizable impact later on, and this makes for some interesting decisions along the way. The decision of, I could wait to play this card until it's kicked, but it's in my third color that I don't have a lot of mana sources for. Should I maybe just play it now to get the smaller effect rather than wait to get enough mana, but not the right color to play the kicker effect? So decisions like that will be interesting, and I think you'll want to make sure you build your decks to make sure they do something all along the way, right? If you are not taking action, you're falling behind, and you want to draft enough cards to make sure you reliably have flexibility to act both early and late, so you don't lose pace, but you also come back and impact in big ways with kicked cards down the line. And I think advanced drafters who will draft for flexibility and navigate colors right to ensure they are open to that flexibility are the ones who are going to win in this case. So I think it'll be a very interesting format, and I'm really excited about it. As far as the most powerful colors, looking at the actual ratings of the colors, let me pull that up. Looking at the ratings of colors, I have pulled up here the grade as indicated by a number. Essentially, you'll see my grade lookup. I took my grades from A+ all the way down and assigned a point grade to it, so the higher the better. And then I took the average of each color, and I looked at, first I'll do just commons, because they're the ones that matter most for judging colors. And you'll see that red, blue, and white all were tied at a 4, with next being black at a 3.64, and green on average being a 3.53. And so that kind of indicates that red, blue, and white will be the most impactful. Uncommons definitely impact a set, though, and I like including them in the averages. And once you do that, you'll see that red was a clear winner at 5, white shortly behind that with a 4.82 rather than a 5, and then blue right after that with 4.44. So if I were to rate the colors, it would be red, white, then blue, followed by green and black. But you'll kind of see the different tiers there. You kind of have, really it looks like red and white up ahead here, with blue and green up next, and then black. I think blue does interact quite well with a lot of the colors, though, so you can't just take this at face value. But I think it's indicative of where you kind of want to start with your drafts before we've actually gotten to any gameplay and you really see where you're at. Now, just because a color is labeled as better than another one doesn't necessarily mean that you should avoid the bad ones. Don't get me wrong, there are formats where I definitely have avoided some colors before. Streets of New Capenna, which I drafted recently, you will have seen that I avoided green pretty hard unless I was specifically in brokers. And I also tried to avoid getting in red first, unless, basically I tried to draft blue first and then extend around the color wheel from there. In general, drafts tend to be self-correcting. I do think out the gate, the red, white, and blue decks are going to be the best decks, but that will, shortly after the metagame reacts to that, we're probably going to see extensions into other colors more. And I think down the line, let's say black is the least drafted color, well, that sets you up to get all the Phyrexian Ragers, for example, that come on up as the best common in black. So I do think you really do want to find your lane. That's nothing new and limited, but I'm just going to reiterate, you want to find your lane of what colors work for you. And in particular, what I like to do is start by picking the most powerful cards, regardless of whether they're the best color or not. If I have the best possible color or card in black, that I'll move into that over a good red card. I don't tend to favor the colors up front. I will use colors as tiebreakers. When I'm in between two cards, I will pick the one of the higher ranked color. But in general, In this set in particular, I want to really search for signals to find what my second color is going to be, such that I can take advantage of a lot of those kickers without having to reach into a third color. I do think you will be reaching to a third color quite a bit in order to get to those kickers, but if I can get into the right two colors first, I would much prefer that than stretching too far to get into a third color. So first, I like to try to notice the signals to pick up your main color as early as possible. Usually by pick 3 to 5, I see a trend of what main color I want to try to be in, and in picks 6 to 8, I'm confirming that trend, kind of settling in on that one first color that I know I'm going to be in. Then I try to wait to find my second color until packs or in pack 1, picks 9 to 11 is where I'm really trying to identify that second color. Not that I'm committing to it yet. I really wait until pack 2, picks 3 to 5 before I confirm my second color. I want to know that it's open coming the other way, but I definitely want to know that come pack 3, that color should still be coming around to me because I saw it in pack 1. So I'm more limiting my possibilities of what my second color is in the later round of pack 1, and then confirming it in pack 2. So I think that will be a good way to go here, as it is in most sets, but I just want to reiterate that strategy as you'll really want to be looking for those colors, not just as the main color of the card, but also the kicker color of the card as well. There's a lot of power in the kicker abilities and the secondary colors that come along with a lot of these cards in this set, as we reviewed in our set review. Lastly, on strategy, I just want to go over a little bit of power and toughness and how that is laid out throughout the set. So I want to credit Lords of Limited here. They did a set review, and I am reiterating some of the numbers that they came out with here, whereas the rest I did purely on my own. They went ahead and did the upfront research, so I'm leveraging what they have. They're a great podcast. If you haven't checked them out, lordslimited.com, I recommend them. But up first here for X1s, so creatures that are 1 toughness, there's 16 creatures at common and uncommon for that toughness, which represents 16% of the creatures. So there's a few things like Resolute Reinforcements, Smash to Dust, and Splatter Goblin that can kill X1s. They don't hit that many creatures, though. It's only 16%. So, like usual, X1 removal is not huge, but less so even in this set than a lot of other sets we've seen. Up next, we have X2, so creatures with 2 toughness. There are 28 creatures with toughness 2 for a total of 44 creatures that are 2 or less, and that's 45% of creatures. So you're nearing 50% of your creatures once you can kill something with toughness 2. So cards like Tribute to Urborg, Flowstone Infusion, Meteorite, and Cutdown should all be able to take care of these creatures. Once you can kill something with 2 toughness, it starts being pretty playable in your deck because it's going to have targets. X3 is where you start hitting the vast majority of creatures. There's 29 creatures with toughness 3 for 73 total of toughness 3 or less, and that represents 74% of all creatures, so 3/4 of all creatures. Lightning Strike will hit, for instance, so that's one of the reasons I think Lightning Strike is a really good card. X4s, once you get there, you're up to 89% of creatures having toughness 4 or less, and so this makes a card like the Hurloon Battle Hymn, the pay 3, deal 4 to something. You're able to kill 9 out of 10 creatures with that. That'll be a good card. And then X5s, you get 96 creatures at common or uncommon that are X5s or less, so that's 98% of all the creatures, and you have 1 X6 creature and 1 X7 creature. So I will say for the X5s, that I guess it kind of calls out, you're hitting 98% of the creatures, where there's that one board wipe that deals 5 damage to everything. It'll basically be a board wipe. And then Jaya's Fire NATO is a card for 5 mana that you can deal 5 to something. I still don't like that rate, paying 5 to get 5, so I don't like that card that much, but it will kill almost everything. And lastly, I just want to go over my top 3 commons and my top 2 uncommons for each color. So my top commons in white are Citizen's Arrest, Take Up the Shield, Install for Time. My top commons in blue are Essence Scatter, Timely Interference, and Tolarian Geyser. My top commons in black are Phyrexian Rager, Urborg Repossession, and Toxic Abomination. My top commons in red are Lightning Strike, Flowstone Infusion, and Collision Warbrute. And my top 3 commons in green are Vine Shaper Prodigy, Bite Down, and Magnagoth Sentry. For uncommons, my top 2 uncommons in white are Phyrexian Missionary and Knight of Dawn's Light. My top 2 uncommons in blue are Battlewing Mystic and Rona's Vortex. My top 3 uncommons in black are Sengir Connoisseur and Cutdown. My top 3 uncommons in red are Warhost's Frenzy and Electrostatic Infantry. And my top 2 uncommons in green are Elvish Hydromancer and Linebreaker Baloth. So that kind of covers the top-down view of Dominaria United. I will say those top 3 commons and top 2 uncommons are good to have in mind as you are drafting for looking for signals, but they will definitely change over the course of the set. They always do. We'll see how it plays out. And tomorrow we get to start drafting it, so look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.